He once risked his life to save lion cubs from a deadly flood. Years later, those same lions did the unthinkable to save him. What happened in the African wild will leave you speechless. The sun hung low over the endless sea of golden grass, casting a warm amber glow across the vast savanna. The air was heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth, and distant acacia bloomed somewhere in the deep stillness. A lion roared, a haunting echo of nature's wild breath. David and Becky adjusted the strap of his rifle across his shoulder as he scanned the horizon from the ridge. He had spent more years in this reserve than anywhere else on earth. This land had raised him, shaped him, and quietly taken bits of his soul. In return, he was more than a ranger here. He was a guardian of life itself. That afternoon, the sky had turned. Clouds rolled in from the east, thick and gray, with warning storms in Africa. Didn't come gently, they roared in like beasts clawing down trees and flooding rivers within minutes. As he prepared to return to the station, the radio crackled with a faint broken message, something about lions. Something about water rising. His pulse kicked up. He knew the northern bend of the river, well, flat, low ground, where animals often got stranded when storms surged too fast. He started the engine of his Land Cruiser and took off, the vehicle bouncing violently over wet terrain. By the time he arrived, it was nearly too late. In the middle of a newly formed island, surrounded by turning brown floodwater, stood a pride of lions, 3 lionesses and 5 tiny cubs. The island had been part of the riverbank just hours ago. Now it was shrinking with each passing minute. The lionesses paced along the edge, glancing at the water, then back at their shivering young. Panic had no voice, but it was written in their eyes. David's hands were already unfastening the emergency rope from the back of the truck. There was no time to wait, for back up the waters would sweep those cubs away before help ever arrived. He wrapped the rope around his waist, checked the knot, then stepped into the river. The current gripped him instantly, but he leaned into it, forcing his way across. His boot slipped, his muscles strained, and icy water clawed at his chest. But he made it. He stood face to face with the pride. The lionesses didn't snarl, they didn't growl, they simply stood still. Muscles taut, tails flicking, amber eyes watching his every move. He recognized them. He had seen this pride before, years ago. When they were smaller, younger, they remembered him too. He could feel it. He knelt down and carefully picked up the first cub, soaked, shaking, barely the size of a house cat. Slowly he turned and began the fight back through the water, using the rope as a lifeline. When he reached the bank, he placed the cub gently inside the vehicle and returned again and again and again. Each journey took more from him, his strength, his breath, his warmth, but he didn't stop. He didn't count the risk. He only counted lives. On his last trip, the current nearly swept him away, but he clung to a branch and pulled himself through. The final cub whimpered against his chest. Behind him, the lionesses stood like statues in the rain. The cubs were safe. He turned toward the pride one last time. Chest heaving, body trembling, the lionesses stared at him with an intensity that could shatter glass. Then one of them took a single step forward, not as a threat, but as a gesture. David felt something pass between them, something wordless, ancient, and pure. He drove away, slowly watching them disappear in the rearview mirror. The image of those eyes, deep, wild, grateful, followed him all the way home. He never spoke of what happened that day. The only proof was the rope burns on his palms, and the silent knowledge that something extraordinary had taken place between man and Danae. Beast. Years passed, the cubs grew, the pride became legend, and David remained their quiet protector, patrolling the land that bound them all. He never sought them out. But when their paths crossed, there was always a moment, just a pause in the wind, a turn of the head where they saw him and he saw them, as if they were still remembering, as if they had never forgotten. The sun beat down harshly over the savannah, painting the grasslands in golden fire. David, now older and slower, walked the familiar patrol trail with quiet determination. Years had passed since he'd saved those lion cubs from the flood, and though his body had aged, his spirit remained tethered to the land. He loved, but on this particular day, something was off. The wind felt heavier. The birds had fallen strangely silent. As David reached a bend in the trail, dizziness struck him like lightning. His vision blurred, his knees buckled, he fell to the ground, his body jerking once, then lying still, a stroke miles from help. His radio just out of reach, David lay unconscious and vulnerable under the unforgiving sky. Time crawled, insects buzzed, the world moved on, but not everyone had forgotten him. From the tall grass nearby, a rustle. The pride had sensed something now fully grown. The cubs David once carried through raging waters had become powerful lions, rulers of their territory, but something deeper than instinct stirred in them, a memory, a bond. The alpha male, broad and regal, moved first. His amber eyes scanned the trail until they found the fallen man. He approached slowly. No fear, only awareness. He sniffed. David's shoulder paused, then let out a soft, rumbling growl. One by one, the lionesses joined him, forming a protective circle around the man who once carried their young. Then something miraculous happened. The alpha male turned and padded toward the dirt road, the only path a park vehicle could take. Minutes later, a ranger's jeep appeared in the distance. The lions didn't scatter. They stood in the road, blocking the vehicle, eyes locked with the driver's. The alpha growled low and deliberate before turning back toward the brush. The driver understood. He followed slowly and was led straight to David's unconscious body. Rescue was called. Medics arrived just in time. Later, at the hospital, doctors confirmed the truth. If he had been found even an hour later, David wouldn't have survived. Word spread quickly, not just across the reserve, but around the world. A pride of wild lions had guided rescuers to a fallen human, the same human who years ago had saved them. David recovered, though the event left him quieter, more reflective. He didn't need fame or attention. Each evening, he sat outside his cabin, watching the horizon, always in the direction of where the lions had disappeared. Because deep down, he knew. Some bonds are stronger than fear, deeper than memory, and wilder than the savannah itself. And when kindness is given in silence, the wild remembers, and sometimes it repays the debt.